Hello. Let's see, it's 10 p.m. here at uh, Fort Worth, Texas. My son and I just walked about an hour or two ago to Walgreens. I, I, I bought a bunch of candy, gummy bears, pretzels, probably everything that's bad for me. And I've made a little bit of progress here with tying wires to things so they're not hanging down everywhere. Of course, I keep moving stuff, and that's what causes me problems. I moved the lamp over there, and I think that solved my problem. I think yesterday or whatever, I was trying to show you something. I think it was this speaker here, and it was not enough lighting. And I think that problem has been solved by this lamp. Uh, let's see what else is going on. I don't think I've had hardly any comments at all about the microphone, but I think I'm listening to it and it sounds good. This is, I think, the way to go. I didn't take my morning meds. It's 10 p.m. at night. So, oops. One of these is the uh, salt pill, or anyway, it's the thing that makes you. And I cut those in half when I take them. The two white ones. One is a diabetes, and I forget what the other one is. I think the other one may be for the heart. Going to save these other three. I'll take them later. Uh, I was thinking about Trump, and I'm convinced that he will be going to prison. And I was I was thinking, well, of course, I don't think he's going to go to a regular prison, especially he's not going to go. No matter how much you dislike Trump, you don't want to see him or anybody, I don't think, in a Georgia prison. And of course, with the circumstances of him being a former president and all of that, I think what would happen, and this is just a guess, I think he'd go to some type of a sort of semi-military base. Now, they're not going to send him to Fort Worth or to Fort Knox, where the gold is. He'd go crazy trying to figure some way to get hold of it. I think he'd go to some type of a military base or a camp that is not, it'd have to be secure. And it would have to be not a resort. But I think there'd be a golf course. Now, not compared to any of his golf courses, I'm sure. There'd be a movie theater. Of course, he's not going to want to watch a movie in a movie theater, but I think there would be some amenities. I'm not sure what kind of base that would be, but I think that's what would happen. He'd go to some place like that. Myself, I wouldn't mind being in it. I'm 82, and we pay a lot of rent for this place. And, I've got one room. And so, but of course, for him, it would be unbelievably bad. But I think that's what would, that's what would happen. Then I was wondering, I didn't look it up, but I did pull it up here, Wikipedia. I was wondering, I think Trump's younger than I am. I was born in 1941. I think he was born in 1946, I think. I was wondering, and I'm 82. My father and his brothers, I think 5 or 6, they all died really early. And I'm 82. So my father was the first one to die, and then he was the second. My Uncle Joe, his brother, was the oldest, and then my father. My father was the first one to die. But I was wondering about, let's see, Fred Trump. Okay. He died at age of 93. So I'm thinking that Trump, could die, live until 93, maybe a little bit older. And that would be a long time for him to be in prison. I don't see him getting a pardon except I think at some point in the of course, Trump has destroyed the Republican Party. He has a terrific hold on a part of the Republican Party, and I'm not sure if he is going to destroy the Republican Party or if it will just move away from him and they won't talk. Used to be a lot of talk about Ronald Reagan. Republicans talked about Ronald Reagan and things like that. I don't see that happen. I think they would just kind of ignore. History won't, but I think people would just kind of not mention, at Republican conventions that there is still a Republican Party. I think they would. Well, now they don't, like Republicans. They're not interested in. It's all Trump. So I think maybe, depending on how things happen, down the road a piece, quite a ways away, I think I don't see a Democratic president pardoning him ever, unless there turns out to be some type of a problem with the detention that he's in. If it turns out that there's some type of a scandal where he was mistreated, which I don't think would happen, but where he was mistreated or something, then there might be a movement to, hey, I don't think that's going to happen. But down the road a piece, way down the road, there might be a president who would decide, because of Trump's advanced age, maybe some type of a medical problem or something, and he might maybe he wouldn't get a pardon. I don't think he'd get a pardon ever, but be released. Now the only problem I see with him is when he goes to the detention that he'll be going to, if he continued to do what he's doing now, the lies, the falsehoods, the hatred, all this type of stuff, if he was in detention and doing that, and I don't see him ever able to change unless he gets Alzheimer's or something. So anyway, that's my prediction. Of course, I'm 82, so I'm not going to be around to see to see the outcome of this. Um, let's see what is. Let's see what's the news right now. You know, I want to find something other than CNN. I don't have any political. Um, you know, I'm. It's not. I'm not one of these. You know, right wingers that attacks CNN or anything like that. But I just don't like their site. I don't like the way they have such tremendous number of ads, in this thing and down this thing. So if you have a recommend, don't send me like redstate.com. I haven't checked redstate.com in a long time. I used to, when it sort of began, it's a right-wing site. But in the beginning, it seemed to me like, yeah, I mean, they had their agenda, but there was a point of view you could get, and you could see, okay, that's what their position was, and then you could, let's see. United Auto Workers, I used to be a member of that union, by the way, threatened to strike against automakers. I guess the UAW reminds Biden Democrats of their obligation to big labor. Now remember, this is redstate.com, so you can't, you have to be able, and that's a problem that a lot of people don't have. You can have a position and all this type of stuff, but you've got to have the ability to read something and see if they're being fair, if they have a position that's not logical or something like that. And Trump's people, that you can, if you want to know what it's like when you don't, that's his people. No matter what he says, they believe it, and he comes up with all these kind of crazy stories, and they believe it. So you need the ability, and I don't know. We're somehow we're sometime that needs to be taught. So that when you're reading and when you're taking a material that that you're able to figure it out. That, okay, this isn't, it says such and such, but it's not right. I'm sure you could teach it. Now, can you teach it in grade school? Can you teach it in high school? I think in high school you could. But now, Trump people and people like that, they're going to say, that's indoctrination. Well, that's propaganda. No, it's dispensing information with, but I don't see that happening with our current political situation, because the Republicans would, latch on to that, the Trump people. Say they're trying to do such and such, they're trying to, So I don't think it's happening. I actually, by the way, I forget how they scored it, but I mentioned this before, so I'm not bragging, by the way. But it was in the junior year, and I've mentioned, nobody mentioned this, so I think they did away with this. It was something rather in the junior year of high school that all junior high school students across the United States took this test, and then it rated you against the people in your state, against the kids in your school, and against, so you had a chart that showed all this. So when I took it, I think it's a National Scholastic Scholarship or something. When I got it, it was like on a, so it's probably been if I think about 1958. So I got it, and I looked at it, and then I saw the thing that had me slightly above when they put this material together, you know, where are you, you know, on your overall? And I was slightly above average, slightly above the middle. And I thought, okay, I'm okay with that, you know. And then I looked and it was like, oh shit, whoop, way down at the bottom, like lower 10%, someplace in there. Like, God, what's that? And that was math. And I, oh God, that's not good. And then I looked and whoop, one was way at the top. I'm talking top 5%, 10% for sure, in the top. So you had these extremes. And I thought, what is that? And I looked that up. And that was, and I'm not sure what that would be, you know, what the name for that would be. But it was the ability to read. Now, of course, I was really good at reading. But the ability to read, and I forget how they put it, make determinations on to weed out, you know, something that was obviously, you know, wrong. And I thought, well, that's a good thing to have. And I learned it through my life, actually. That ability, that helped me. I had, you know, bosses or whatever, directors of security or whatever, and they would come out with something and say, you know, this is wrong. And I'd say, no, you're wrong, you know. And they couldn't see it, and they were smart. A lot of them, some of them were not. But so, but right now I don't think you can. I think you can teach it, although I don't think I never attended none of the schooling I took. It had to be something that was, you know, in my DNA or my brain or something rather, that I had that ability to see what was right and to see what was wrong. And then, but I still think it could be taught. But I think right now it could not, because the Republicans would, you know, just like one time I think I brought this up, you know, I said a bunch of these right-wing people, I mean, they're really fanatics in Trump's, you know, they're mentally ill. I mean, you know, and Trump would fall in that category too, you know, drinking bleach or whatever, you know. But, and I thought, you know, I think really, you know, they need help, but you can't, you know, that would be political for sure. If, you know, if you said, okay, these people are mentally ill, because the USSR, you know, which is now Russia, that's what they were doing with dissidents, people who wanted some freedom or people who complained about the communist government. They would lock those newspaper reporters or religious people or whoever, they would lock them up in a mental hospital. And I guess give them mental, you know, and, you know, diagnose them as, and so with that in history, although you probably don't remember it or wouldn't believe it anyway, but I mean, you couldn't do that now. You couldn't say, okay, this person over here should not be a voter. Of course, that's one thing you got to be really careful about, not trying to take somebody's voting rights away. But on the other hand, look at the people you've got that are voting who are not in touch with reality, who think all kinds of things. They think that President Biden is actually dead, and that somebody has taken his place. I don't know if they think it's Trump, that Trump is actually. Then I heard some people they were being questioned at a Trump rally outside, you know, and they were saying that Trump was the what would he be, the he wasn't secretary. They didn't say he was Secretary of Defense, but like whoever the highest ranking military officer would be, that was actually, Trump. I mean, the craziness. I mean, those people need treatment, but you don't dare say anything about that, because then it would look like, for sure, to a whole bunch of people. I mean, you don't really care what those people think, the ones that are that far gone, that, think that Trump is actually President of the United States and is actually in the White House controlling things, but then there's somebody that looks like, or is, I mean, it's insanity, but you can't, you really can't say that, because then they're going to say, look, and then there's a bunch of other, then people who are not, people who are Republicans or conservatives who are over that, who are not, Trump zombies, but they're over that. Of course, now they should be, pushing against that, against Trump. But apparently they're not. But let's say they were, reasonable people. Like, I can't think of Republicans, Well, Bush, Reagan, trying to think of somebody, then they would be, if they were in that position and they were not Trump zombies. But if these people, some of them were taken, and put in the, the jackets or whatever, and taken away, then these people would be like, well, wait a minute, this is like Nazi Germany, they came for the such and such kind of people, they came for such and such kind of people, they came for the, the Protestants, they came for the Catholics, they came for, and then in this saying, the scenario, the person says, and then they came for me, and there wasn't anybody to speak up, for me. He was the last one or whatever. So you couldn't do that. This is over my head. I'm just sending out some ideas. How long have I been talking? About 30 minutes, and I think it's time to... did I even go over here to show you this? I don't think I did. Oh, I didn't. There's redstate.com. I haven't been here in a long time. But I used to in the beginning come because I could read it, and I could say, okay, they're wrong about this, and they're prejudiced about this, but then I would see other stories by them on their site that was, okay, I can understand why they feel this way or that way. I wonder what you all thought of Trump's mugshot. The story I heard was from his people around him that he practiced it, and he wanted that look that he has. And apparently he likes it, because they said that on his sites for collecting money and doing all that kind of stuff, that he's using his mugshot from Georgia. So I really wasn't expecting that. So that's a way that he surprised me, and I guess surprised some other people. Anyway, thanks very much for watching.